With it rapidly approaching the end of July, and I can't quite believe I'm saying that, we thought it'd be perfect timing to bring you guys our top 5 running shoes of the year so far. There's been lots of reviews done this year. In fact, it's been our busiest year to date. So I've run lots of miles in road shoes, trail shoes from lots of different brands. So let's get stuck into the video and find out which shoes have made our top 5. Welcome back, folks. I'm Run4Adventure and this is Run4Adventure. Hope everybody is fit and well out there. When this video goes live, we should be heading across to France to start some quality training in the mountains around Chamonix. Can't wait to get back out there, but also can't wait to bring you guys some epic mountain running content. So if you follow the channel, if you're subscribed but you haven't hit that bell notification, now's the time to do it. So you'll be notified when we upload any of that exciting content. Right, on to today's video, and we are taking a look at my 5 best running shoes of the year so far. I've gathered a good selection together of road and trail shoes, and we're going to go through them in reverse order. So coming in at number 5 is Innovate's X-Talon Ultra 260 V2. Now, I tested these luggy beauties back at the beginning of the year when it was super wet, really slippery and very muddy out there on the trails, and I was really impressed with how it performed. Now, it has been a bit hit and miss with me when it comes to Innovate trail running shoes, and in the past I have found some of their shoes to be a little bit too aggressive in that midsole for the type of running I do, and I have had a few sort of fit and comfort issues from their uppers. So their uppers tend to be quite stripped back in design, not a lot of padding or cushioning around that ankle collar, and definitely very thin when it comes to that tongue design. So I've had issues where the laces have pulled through the tongue and sort of damaged the top of my foot, or that ankle collar is just too stripped back, too minimal and too rigid, and I've had irritation on my ankle bone. So I was actually quite pleasantly surprised when I put on the new X-Talon Ultra. Good level of padding around the ankle and in the heel, but I still felt nice and locked into the shoe. And even though that tongue design is still quite thin, I didn't have any issues with it, and it felt quite comfortable wrapped around my midfoot. I think the main selling point of this shoe has to be that tractor-like outsole. You know, if you are running in super boggy, muddy conditions, then look no further, because this shoe handles those conditions so well. That 8mm lug gives you so much traction, so much confidence in the mud, but that rubber also works well on rock or wet rocky conditions, and I was amazed at the level of traction it gave me. Can be quite a hard thing to achieve in a deep lug shoe. Obviously, this shoe's designed for soft ground running. It's all about connection and feel to the trails underfoot. So there's not a great deal of cushioning in that midsole. And there was a couple of times where I picked up longer sections of tarmac where it did feel quite aggressive, but I soon came up with a solution. So I grabbed a spare pair of my brilliant boomerang footbeds from Innovate, super cushioned and bouncy and comfortable underfoot. I stuck them into the X-Talon and the shoe was completely transformed. Now if I pick up a section of tarmac, it actually runs and bounces along quite comfortable, and it kind of made me think, why didn't they put a pair of them great footbeds in the first place? I think it probably comes down to cost, with the shoe retailing for a pretty reasonable £125. I'm sure they couldn't warrant a pair of boomerang footbeds, but I know that come winter time, I'm definitely going to be adding the X-Talon Ultra 260 V2 back into my shoe rotation. On to number 4, and it is actually another trail shoe, but it's a shoe from kind of the total opposite end of the spectrum. So it's a very popular, deeply cushioned trail running shoe, and it is Hoka's Speedgoat 5. Now, my history with Speedgoats, I've run in every single model of the shoe from day one. Some have been really good, like the fantastic Speedgoat 3, and some not so good, like the pretty unstable original Speedgoat. Having been a little bit disappointed when it comes to the previous version, the Speedgoat 4s, it just didn't really work for my foot shape. I pulled them laces down tight, but I still had quite a lot of lateral and medial slippage within that upper, and it just made the shoe feel quite unstable when I was running on technical trails, which was a big shame because I actually stopped running in the Speedgoat model. It seemed like we had to wait forever to get the new Speedgoat 5s. I think there was a lot of manufacturing delays around the world at that time, and it really did cause some serious delays, but finally, once they hit the shelves, I snapped up a pair, and I was very happy when I took them out of the box, out on that first run. A pretty challenging 15 miles on one of my favourite routes down here in Cornwall, the Zena Loop. It really did feel a lot more Speedgoat 3-like, and it just fitted my foot shape a lot better than the previous model. I'd say it's not perfect. I did have to play around with the laces for a bit, but once I got that right, I felt well connected and well held at that midfoot, and it was just great being back running in a Speedgoat shoe. With Hoka stripping a bit of weight out of the shoe, it's felt nice and light and nimble, especially for a deeply cushioned trail shoe. That new midsole design, very comfortable over distance, and it feels like it's returning a good level of energy as you go. I wasn't sure about this flared heel design on a trail shoe. I thought it was a bit gimmicky, but it's actually pretty comfortable and worked quite well. Have heard a few people say that it's sort of allowed grit and small stones getting into that upper. I haven't experienced that while I've been running in them. And then obviously you've got that fantastic Vibram Mega Grip rubber outsole. Such a brilliant outsole. I think this is one of the main reasons why the Speedgoat model has become so popular, especially with sort of ultra distance trail runners. Great level of grip. On rock or wet rock or tarmac or wet tarmac, you feel super confident. It never lets you down. And I actually think this current version is a bit better when it comes to traction in the mud. Don't get me wrong, it's still going to struggle if you're running in super boggy, muddy conditions. It can't really handle those, but definitely an improvement when it comes to grip and traction on mud when you compare it to the previous version. Up next, we are sticking with trail shoes, and I suppose this proves that I am a trail runner at heart. This is actually a shoe that we've just managed to get our hands on, and also a shoe that I was super excited to test out. So coming in at number 3, it is Saucony's first ever carbon plated trail running shoe, the very pink Endorphin Edge. First things first, I have to say I love this crazy, wacky, bonkers pink colorway that Saucony have used on a man's shoe. You know, it is definitely a bold move using a pink colorway. I know it's not going to be to everybody's liking, but I think the shoe looks great. It's been well documented at the channel that I haven't always been a big fan of sticking rigid carbon plates into trail running shoes, and they have left me quite disappointed in the past whenever I've tested them out. You know, that carbon plate has just made that midsole too stiff, and you know, I've found that I've sort of lost connection and ground feel, especially when I'm running out on more sort of technical trails. Now, Saucony made some pretty big claims when it comes to their clever design of their Carbide X plate in the midsole. So basically, it should feel nice and stiff when you're running uphill or hiking uphill to give you good levels of propulsion, but then when you're coming down the other side, it should adapt to that downhill running and feel nice and flexible. Now, these are great claims if it actually does what it's supposed to do. So on its first run, I took it out on a really challenging hill session, lots of steep ups and lots of technical downs, and I have to say it did kind of feel like it was working in that way. So it felt like I was getting lots of assistance when I was driving up those steep climbs, but not at one point did it feel too stiff or too rigid. So for a deeply cushioned carbon plated trail running shoe, I actually felt pretty connected underfoot. The Power Run PB midsole has been brilliant, and I actually prefer the feel of this midsole when I compare it to the new Endorphin Speed 3 road shoe. This just feels lively and exciting, and all you want to do is sort of up the tempo and run quicker. It's comfortable, super fast and really nimble. The upper has been super breathable. I've actually tested the shoe out on a couple of very sort of hot days, 29, 30 degrees, no issues when it comes to breathability, which is a good thing because when I ran that first run in the original Endorphin trail, that upper ran so hot, it was so uncomfortable and it wasn't great. So happy to say that's not the case when it comes to the Endorphin Edge. And then we got a full Power Track rubber outsole. Brilliant compound, great on rock or wet rock. You feel really confident, it really bites in. We got a 4mm lug depth, so pretty good when it comes to crossing over a big mix of terrains. Obviously we're in the middle of a heat wave here, so I haven't tried it on any mud, but the lug's quite chunky, so it should handle those conditions pretty well. I've got 35 to 40 miles in the shoe so far, and I am really enjoying the feel. This is how I wanted an Endorphin trail running shoe to feel. I think the only negative is obviously the crazy £200 price point, which is a big shame because that's obviously going to put a lot of people off trying the shoe, which I totally understand because it is a lot of money to spend on a running shoe. We're obviously going to be taking these along on our adventures soon, and it's going to be really interesting to test this shoe out out in those challenging mountain conditions. Rapidly moving on to number 2 in our top 5, and we finally got a road shoe in the list. And I've just realized it's another shoe from the Saucony brand. So they've got 2 shoes in our top 5, and who knows, maybe it could be 3, but a little bit more about that in a minute. I think it really does highlight how well the brand fits my foot shape, but also that they are making some brilliant running shoes at the moment. Now, over the years, I've run in quite a few pairs of Saucony rides, right back to the first ever model of the shoe, all the way up to the not so great ISO rides. So when I tried on the new Ride 15, I couldn't believe how much it had changed in a positive way. Now, I've always looked at the Ride as being that sort of daily workhorse trainer that you put on and you just soak up those weekly miles. It never really felt exciting. You never sort of looked at it and thought, oh, I'm gonna go and put them on and then go sprinting out the door. Well, that was until now, because the new Ride 15 definitely gets me excited about running. The upper feels super plush straight out of the box. We got just the right level of padding for me around the ankle, in the heel, and in that gusseted tongue. So it feels comfortable wrapped around your foot, but you still feel well connected to the midfoot and well locked into the heel. That new blend of Power Run compound in the midsole is a bit of a revelation, and I think the best blend to date. So it feels really well balanced, nice and lightweight, really energizing and sort of high energy returning, and they're all words that I never thought I would use to describe the midsole on a ride shoe. You know, this really has been a big transformation, and Saucony have taken like a one-trick pony and turned it into a very versatile running shoe. A shoe that can sort of take everything in its stride, from steady recovery runs, interval sessions, and even a bit of race day mileage if you wanted to. So great job, Saucony, brilliant update. Okie dokie, so that is numbers 5 through to number 2, but now it is time for our numero uno, our top banana, our big cheese, our pièce de résistance. So can we get a drum roll, please? Coming in our top spot when it comes to best running shoes of 2022 so far, it is another trail running shoe, and it is the brilliant Exodus Ultra. Now, if you've watched our first impressions of these, then you were probably expecting the Exodus Ultra to take number 1 spot. If you haven't seen that video, it's definitely worth a watch, so I'll leave a link in the description for it below so you can check it out. A bit of a spoiler alert here, so if you are going to watch it, just block your ears for a second. I managed to run 80 miles at Endure 24 in these straight out the box. You know, I just couldn't believe how comfortable they felt. The original plan was to run a couple of loops, say 10 miles, and then switch into another shoe. But like I said, they just felt great, and I had no hot spots, no blisters, no black toenails, no issues of any kind. So there really was no point in stopping and changing into another shoe, because they definitely wouldn't have felt as comfortable as these. It's got a great fitting upper on my foot shape, so really well sort of held around the midfoot with that gusseted tongue and well locked into the heel. But it gives you quite a nice sort of volume in the toe box, and especially for distance, because over them types of distances your feet can expand and swell quite a lot, and it just felt nice and airy and roomy in the toe. We've got that clever dual compound midsole design, so we got Saucony's slightly firmer, more stable Power Run compound on the outside. Housed within that, we have their performance-based Power Run PB as a core, so that makes the shoe feel very stable, very connected, but also really responsive, and feels like it's returning a lot of energy. Very comfortable over those miles around the loop of Endure 24. A big mixture of terrain, so we had tarmac, we had loose gravel, and even a section through the woods with lots of roots, and it soaked it up really well and stayed very comfortable over those miles. I've got 150 miles into the shoe so far, including running the Salomon Serpent Trail 50k in them, and I'm still blown away by the performance, and I've literally had no issues to speak of in this shoe. It's definitely still sort of top of my list when it comes to the trail shoe that I'm going to be rocking at this year's TDS. I have had a few people comment about their pairs of Exodus, about the outsole shredding really quickly, some after only 10 miles, which is definitely not a good thing. But you know, if you look at the outsole on these, we're 150 miles in, and there's very little sign of wear at all. So maybe it depends on, you know, the type of terrain that you're running on, but I've had no issues when it comes to durability with that Power Track outsole. So there you have it, my top 5 running shoes of the year so far. Obviously, we've still got quite a few months left in the year and we're going to continue to test shoes here at the channel. It's going to be really interesting to see how many of that current 5 are in the list at the end of the year. I know one thing's for sure, that it's going to be hard to knock the Exodus Ultra off of top spot. It's going to take some special shoe, but you know, you never know. New Balance are bringing out their new Fuel Cell Rebel V3 this year, and I was a massive fan of the V2. I love running in that shoe, so you never know, that could be a shoe to challenge it, but we'll have to wait and see. It'd be great to get your feedback, guys. What do you think about our top 5? Are there shoes in it that you're running in that you love, or are there shoes in it that you're running in that you didn't get on with? Let us know all about it in the comments below. And also, it'd be great to hear what your top shoe is for this year so far. Don't forget, if you've enjoyed the video or found it helpful, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. It really does help us out. But don't forget to hit that bell icon as well, so you'll then be notified when we upload any new exciting running content, so you won't miss out on anything. If you want to support the channel even more, we have got a Patreon page where you can support us for as little as £2 a month. And we've also now got the Buy Me a Coffee feature, which a lot of you guys have asked for. It really helps us to sort of keep the lights on and the cameras rolling, and obviously it is greatly appreciated. But for now, guys, thanks for watching and thanks for supporting. We'll be back here very soon, and as always, stay safe and keep on running. I actually prefer the feel of this the top banana, the big cheese, the new so let's get a drum roll. So taking our top spot, taking our top spot.